Hi, today's good person to know is Adam Bates. He's head of creative thinking at KPMG. He's been with the company for over 30 years and spent a large portion of his time advising big companies on how they could overcome obstacles. He's now all about innovation, prosperity and doing things better. He says that in order for big companies to survive now, they've got to change their orthodoxies, and by that he means change the way they used to do things. He gives an example of the Swedish calculator. It was a manual instrument which he used as a young child. But 2 years after the introduction of the electronic calculator, they crashed and burned, and that's because they didn't take advantage or recognise the importance of the silicon chip. A company which has changed its orthodoxies is Avis when they purchased Zipcar for $500 million in cash. Adam says big companies aren't able to change the way they do things, and this gives opportunities for small startups, entrepreneurs and incubators to work with these companies to increase their sales and to prevent them from folding. And that's why startups are so important and why big businesses are actually investing in them. Adam says the dynamics of the business model have changed, whereby a long time ago companies could last for 75 years. By 2025, that life cycle of a business is going to be 5 years, and that's due to technological changes and globalization. So if you're thinking about an idea for your business but not really sure what you should do, perhaps you should look at what the big companies are doing, seeing if there's any way you can revolutionize that, just improve on how they're delivering to their customers or their performance, and maybe you could be the next Zipcar inventor. So I hope you enjoy this video, and thanks for watching.
Helping big companies, most of which have been in deep trouble. And the latter few years it's been trying to help companies innovate and prosper and do better. So if you ever go to a big company and ask to see their projections, there's always a line like this. So they say it's sort of going up and we're going to be successful. And it's always straight, because life's never straight like that, but they think it's straight. And the interesting thing is that never happens. It doesn't happen for two reasons. Often companies have more agile competition than they have, and you just have to look at, say, Kodak, which obviously went bankrupt a year ago, or look at the Japanese consumer goods companies whose share prices have just gone south for the past 5 years because they didn't keep up with tech. The more agile competition just kills growth projections of companies. The companies that do really well are those that flip their orthodoxies. Orthodoxies are all about perceived usual ways of doing things. It's always been done that way, it must be the right way of doing things. This is a Swedish calculator. I was 15 years old at school. I was taught how to use one of these. The gadget was designed in something 1894 in Russia. It was 1917, and the guy who designed it fled Sweden. And if you look at that machine, which was built in 1949, this was a version of the machine 25 years before. And there's not much difference. So this company sold millions of these things over the years and incrementally improved them step by step. It was one of the best calculators ever in 1975, Texas TI-30. And for those, I showed some of this before, it's got red lights. This company died, just like that, within 2 years. So what this company hadn't seen was the need to completely change their business model and move away from mechanical, well-engineered products to silicon. Orthodoxy mistake was they didn't see silicon and the impact of silicon on their business model. So they failed completely. Another example is car rental. We've all probably done it. We've gone to an airport, rung up the airport to book a car, you queue up, you speak to somebody, you fill a form and tick the boxes that you never read, you get given the keys, you walk around and drive to the car. And that business model has been there since 1948-49, after the Second World War in the United States. So Zipcar got rid of that model completely and just said all you need is a smartphone and an RFID equipped card which opens up the car. You don't need offices, you don't need people in smart uniforms, you don't need printed forms to be collected and filed somewhere. Avis paid $500 million in cash for a Zipcar. Because Avis couldn't think of that disruption themselves, it was impossible, because they were used to training staff to open up airport kiosks, and that was a business model. They didn't spot it was a completely different way. Another example, coffee. Most of my life I've bought coffee in jars, and you take a spoon out of the jar and put it in a cup of hot water, and that makes a cup of coffee. And it's a bit of a commoditised product, so the price gets driven down. Nestle bought a patent from an external party for Nespresso capsules. The coffee in this is 7 times the price for the consumer as the coffee in the jar. Now what Nespresso did, the interesting thing, they bought the idea from a third party, effectively a guy with a startup idea, and they incubated the startup for 10 or 14 years before it was successful. Because the first time they tried the model, they tried to sell it to offices and it didn't work. And then they said, let's make it more stylish and sell it to consumers, the public. And they said, let's put the premium up, make it really expensive and sell it. And so they created a premium brand which sells roughly $2 billion worth of coffee a year. So there's something quite serious about big companies who just aren't able to change the way they do things. They're just stuck in orthodoxies. And there's something about if they can create environments by which they connect with startups, like many people in this audience, or universities, they will be more successful. Samsung announced they're starting up an open innovation centre in London for software because they realise they can't do everything from their head office. And so they're looking for more open innovation. Rio Tinto, the well-known mining company, has got a relationship with Imperial College for tech stuff. You've got Unilever Ventures, who are looking to invest in startups. We launched a $100 million fund for investing in data analytics. So lots of big companies realise there's something about themselves that can't innovate quickly enough and don't have the ideas. If there is a problem with big companies, back in 1937, you lasted for 75 years. Today, roughly speaking, the same companies only last 15 years, the S&P 500. By 2025, it's probably going to be 5 years because of the technology change, because of globalization, changing consumer markets. The speed of change for big companies is ever more imperative for them, and they have to seek ideas. Today, more than ever before in history, have big companies needed ideas from startups to incubate them and help them improve their business.